All right, welcome. I'm so excited to be with you today. I want to share something that's been on my mind today, and it's because I just finished reading the book 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. And it's a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. If you don't know who Peter Thiel is, he is the founder of PayPal. He doesn't run it anymore. He's since sold it, and it's obviously a successful company still, and you for sure know what PayPal is. You just might not know the man behind PayPal. Because of his success with PayPal and how disruptive that company was and the technology was, he's widely regarded as a respected thinker. He writes content and speaks. He's a keynote speaker and a mentor in the entrepreneur space and the technology space. And so it's just fun to hear his thoughts. And what I want to share with you today is something that came from his book, and it's what I've been mulling over in my mind today. Okay, it's this: developing your inner curiosity so that you can create the future. The future, we don't know what the future holds. Okay, we don't know what problems the future holds. We don't know what incredible, amazing, happy things the future holds. But we have this opportunity to create it. Okay, like we live in the present now, but the decisions that we collectively as a people do, and really it comes down to each individual person, right? Whatever you're doing right now is impacting your future. And so the idea I want to share is just to develop this inner desire to discover, right? The wonder, the curiosity, because it's exciting, right? And it helps motivate us to learn. It helps motivate us to think deeply about our own deep-seated beliefs, right? And it helps us to have meaningful conversations with people who see things differently than we see them. And so Peter Thiel, when he talks, his book is largely written to entrepreneurs. Okay, so it's kind of like in a business setting. And so he is talking about businesses that make the biggest difference, that have the greatest opportunities. You know what I mean? Like PayPal, okay? Things that become a household name, like things that totally change the game. So PayPal, Google, Facebook, right? Like even in the gaming space, Fortnite, right? These are companies and technologies that created their own category and crowned themselves king. Okay, Apple, like how many times Apple has just totally shaped our world and totally changed the game for everybody. So like the future, there's opportunity for more companies like that, right? There's more Apples waiting to be in existence. There's more Googles, not solving the same problems, okay, because that would be silly, but solving new problems, some problems that exist right now, some problems that we haven't even discovered yet, we're not even aware of. Okay, so like that's what category kings do. You think of Apple, and it's like we didn't know that we needed a computer in our pocket that could also make phone calls, really, until Steve Jobs showed us the iPhone. Now I know that there's some like smartphones that are already in existence, but like the iPhone just changed the game. And but it's the same thing with the iPad. It was the same thing with like big search engines like Google. Google wasn't the first search engine. They're just like the first one that did it well. And so there's problems that we don't even know of in the future, or like there's problems that exist right now, we just don't even recognize it as problems. And let me use a different example that I think people who maybe aren't in the entrepreneur space would understand. Think about deodorant. Okay, like there did, believe it or not, there was a time when deodorant did not exist. Okay, and all humans were just stinky. And same thing. And so like then someone invented deodorant or perfume or something that like smells good, and I imagine they might have initially had a hard time selling that thing because they went around saying like, hey, look, this is deodorant. And they're like, well, what does it do? And you're like, well, it makes you smell good. And like everyone's like, what are you talking about? I don't smell bad. And so it wasn't until people started adopting it and there was kind of a critical mass of people who like put on deodorant that you realize like, oh, I've been smelling bad this whole time, you know? And so that's kind of like what it feels like when a company kind of develops a new product or technology that solves a problem that we're not even aware of, that exists, but we just don't even know because we've just accepted it as like commonplace. So there's tons of opportunity that exists for new companies like that. And it's probably not going to be like the existing behemoths, like the existing Googles and Facebooks that are going to come up with it. It's going to be people like you and me. And so, but like where do you find a problem that big and that important we're solving? Well, Peter Thiel talks about this in his book. He discusses that there's really, like, companies that have big opportunity like that is because there's some kind of secret that they are uncovering, that they're revealing about, about yourself, okay? And like the discovery of that secret is like what makes it, first it's like, oh my goodness, you're totally right, I didn't even know, right? And it creates a virality, a feel about it that it's like it absolutely solves a problem, it does a good job, and people just have to tell their friends about it. So, like and Peter Thiel goes even further to say there's really only two like buckets of like space that a secret can be uncovered, and that is a secret, like what secrets have not been revealed in nature, or what secrets have not been revealed yet in people. And like what do these things mean? Well, like the like secrets in nature are things like health and wellness and longevity, and like the things with the environment, like forms of energy that don't impact the environment, or like technology that cleans up the environment, or things like that, right? It's like it's kind of in nature, in biology, and it's like there are many secrets left to discover about, like, how to live longer, how to live healthier, how to cure cancer, how to fill in the blank, right? There are secrets left to be revealed. And then the second bucket, right, is secrets in people. And these are like, what are taboo topics? What is nobody talking about that they should talk about? Like, and you and I kind of inherently know what some of these taboo topics are, when it's like things you wouldn't talk about in a group of friends, okay? Like, sometimes like parenting, and like the vulnerability that exists in and around parenting. Sometimes it's in relationships, like in your sex life, right? Like you're not feeling a sense of belonging with your spouse, and you're not, not that life and marriage is all about sex, but it's like you're not connecting on a sexual level, and sex is beautiful and exciting and important, okay? So, but it's like something that you don't talk about, because it's like, how would you even begin to talk about this with a friend or something? Or finances, like debt management, and like wealth creation, like, conversations about that, or just like the structure of a family, or like social structures, or how cities should exist and people exist in a society, and like should there be a restructuring of like the national government, or a state government, or a city government, or like the typical company, and like how things work, right? So like those are like people secrets, is like what are things that people aren't talking about that they should talk about, like taboo stuff. Okay, and so there's tons of secrets left to discover in those areas that will have enormous impact, that will bless the lives of thousands, if not millions, of people. And so, I mean, take the name of this podcast, for example, Sovereign Secrets, right? It in the name implies that there's something left to be discovered that you don't know about how to be free. Because the norm is to not be free. And some people kind of have a facade of freedom, right? The norm is to kind of be lulled into a false sense of security and think that you're free, but you're not, okay? And so the very name of this podcast kind of implies that there's something left to be uncovered about sovereignty and how an individual and a family can reach a state of sovereignty. Okay, so that's where like the big opportunities are, and the impactful companies are. Like in all along the way, there's small improvement, like things that can be made. Like we can make slightly better car. We can make a slightly better cell phone. Maybe you can kind of like make your relationship slightly more passionate, but then like a true secret that's being uncovered like totally changes the game, right? Like, instead of thinking of a car, think like, I don't know, whatever your brain jumps to, like teleporting. I don't know, like some big step change that totally shakes the game. I mean, remember that 100 years ago, like horses was the norm of transportation. And so it's just crazy. Like 100 years ago, people were like cars existed, but they weren't like, I guess probably a little bit more than 100 years ago. But you get the idea. Like there was a time, and it's not too crazy long ago, where people could not even fathom a world without a horse. And so like that technology, like new technology, the car and then the airplane and other modes of transportation have totally displaced the horse as a primary mode of transportation. And that's going to happen again in like all these different areas. Like it's going to change, things will change the game in transportation, they'll change the game in wealth, they'll change the game in relationships, in longevity, and you get to be part of that if you cultivate your inner curiosity. So how do you do that? Well, that's really for topic for another podcast and probably like a whole season, right? In fact, that's like a lifelong quest. But in general, I think if you give yourself permission to dream. This morning I went on a run like I do a lot of days, and instead of listening to a podcast or a book, I just looked up at the sky. I mean, I could do this because it wasn't a trail run at this time. It was like on really smooth pavement. So I don't recommend like looking up as you're jogging if you're going to twist an ankle or something. But I was on a stretch of like good pavement, and the sun wasn't even close to coming up yet. And so the sky was just full of stars, and I was able to look up and just kind of wonder. And I saw a shooting star, which was just like brought me so much joy and excitement, and made me like think all these thoughts like, oh wow, like, where did that shooting star come from? Like, how many of those hit the Earth in a day? How many of those hit the moon in a day? Are some of them dangerous? How would we know? It's like all these thoughts, and then you start thinking of going to Mars and all these other things. So just my point is give yourself space and permission to be curious. So I hope this was a positive return on your attention. Thanks for tuning in. You can reach out to me. I'm on LinkedIn, Stephen Barrow, or on Instagram @BarrowSteve. And definitely shoot me your questions. Let me know what you want to discuss. Let me know if you have questions about myself, my life, the interviews I'm doing, the businesses that I'm involved in, and I'd be happy to discuss it. So that being said, catch you on the flip side.